Alright everybody, this will be warning to all politicians. I'm running for president 2024 part, oh hell, I'll have to just put that in the comments. I can't remember where I left off. So starting it with this here, I found this sign at a truck stop. Haven't taken the tags off it yet there, but you can see the very potent gist of it, and I'll get into what or why I got it. And part of my campaign would be to or platform would be that to get rid of nuclear weapons. So we see time and time again in the news the threat of global warming, and how you have all these politicians around the world, corporations, feigning this banding together and gonna do something about it, and pushing wind and solar energies and calling them green when they're not green. In case you never thought about it, solar only works during the day, so you're down to only 50% effectiveness there. You could probably say less than 50, because twilight hours you're not going to generate anything anyhow. You throw in the winter time, you're going to take some more time off of that. And then you throw in bad weather days when there's no sunshine, all that. So you're probably looking at something that's only going to be able to generate electricity 20, maybe 30% of the time. Something that uses tremendous amounts of land. And like I saw some big solar farms today. Was it yesterday? Anyway, and they were they cleared a large wooded area and had all these solar panels up and everything. But you still got stuff trying to grow underneath. I mean, you could see grass and, different types of bushes and I guess weeds and stuff like that growing. So you're going to constantly have to pay people to go and maintain these solar facilities that are built in places like that, or you're going to have to just bulldoze everything and put a big concrete slab out there and put them all on a slab or something. They take tremendous amounts of land. They only produce electricity part of the time, and it's not enough, even if carbon emissions are causing global warming, which I don't think they are, and CO2 levels. Correlation does not mean causation. They can't say that global warming's taking place definitively anyway, but even if it is, they don't know if CO2 is causing it or something else is causing it, if it's a natural cycle and CO2 is just a byproduct of it if the levels are up. And there are those who dispute the levels of what's being reported on CO2 anyway. So you have this tremendous push for something that is pretty much useless and pretty much would not reduce anything. These panels also, from the videos I watched, are made from coal and quartz and a heating process, which you're going to use fossil fuels. The way it was presented in the video so that people could understand it, was, 2 parts coal to 1 part quartz, to make these panels, if you include the energy needed to make them. Excuse me. Wind turbines, same thing. They don't work all the time. They cost a tremendous amount of money to put everywhere. They use a tremendous amount of land. They kill all types of birds. So do those solar arrays that they put up. They cannot produce the amount of energy, and all this stuff is subsidized. This is all politicians and people. It's all advertising for this stuff, so that people will support it. And these people who make them and transport them and all this and everything, this is all subsidized by your tax dollars. And if you live in parts of the country where there's not going to be solar and wind, where it's shown that it's not going to be effective to do anything, not even the little bit that it does. I mean, do you understand in New Jersey and up the East Coast there, you're paying higher taxes to subsidize these giant solar farms in the Southwest? It's not going to, or you might be paying whoever runs the energy is involved in it from your area, paying higher electric bills to subsidize somebody else's electricity. So you have that, and and even like COVID here now, the big push and all the disinformation on it, and how everyone has to work together and pull together. I mean, this all, whether it's global warming or this COVID stuff, it reminds me of Ronald Reagan when he said, what if, he came close to getting the mark and getting people on the right path, but, about all the defense spending and stuff. He said, what if, we were attacked by aliens or something? That would make us all join together as one humanity. So, and if you've watched any of these videos before, my beliefs in the cause of God and the order of God and the unity of humanity that is taught by Baha'u'llah, which means the glory of God, and the Baha'i faith. I'm in no way an authorized spokesperson for this faith. I myself don't consider myself as somebody reaching the caliber of being an example of anything to anybody. So I want to make that clear. But I do believe the truth of Baha'u'llah and the explanation of religion and humanity, and what all the prophets have taught come to the culmination of the teachings of Baha'u'llah. And how all religions have come from the one God. There's only one God. So that's why I showed the picture of the nuclear detonation. Now you have these people with these quote-unquote threats to humanity. And like I've said before, there's a lot of hocus pocus in our world. And they're talking about these threats of global warming and then the energy shortages, which there is, we can't use fossil fuels forever. Whether they'll last another 100 years or another 1,000 years, I have no idea. But there will come a time when there's a thing that's called peak oil, which means they decide we've used half of all the oil, and now we're on the downhill slide to use the second half, and that's when all the wars and stuff will start for energy domination. So we do need to develop other types of stuff, and like I've said, better engines, better filtration systems, and looking towards high-tech stuff, whether it's nuclear power or some new type of energy source that, all these high-tech schools, MIT and all these types of places, JPL and everything, work on. Wind and solar isn't going to do it. Or thorium reactors. I believe that's the path. So that would be part of my campaign. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the real threat. They tell us about these glaciers melting that have been melting for millions of years. Oh my God, look at the threat. We're under the glaciers melting. Well, it's been doing that for millions of years. That's what it does. And the real threat that there has been and will be, that can wipe out humanity and destroy this planet in a day, are nuclear weapons. But you see, anything that would take away funds from the weapons industries and stuff like that, you don't see the politicians campaigning on that. The real threat to humanity, whether it's nuclear war or other wars, they try, and John Stossel did a piece where he's talking to these climate scientists, and the ones that are saying global warming is causing X amount of deaths around the world every year, and he pointed out to him that cold weather causes more deaths around the world every year. Well, let's add up the body count from wars, and then you can add in the potential deaths of humanity and of the planet if you add in nuclear weapons being used in wars. So if you do that, anyone with any kind of common sense would say, you know what? War and the weapons industries and the nuclear weapon industry is a far, far, far greater threat to human life, to the natural world and to the planet, than anything else that they are talking about. Do you understand that? Hocus pocus. Look over here at this hand. We're going to give you all this stuff to fret and worry about and everything. And the real threat, the threat of wars, not only the military deaths, but the civilian deaths, the destruction to the ecosystems that come with wars, and the possible destruction of the whole planet with a nuclear war, that they don't want you paying any attention to that or to those death tolls. Global warming, they want to ring that bell as loud as they can, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and then take your tax dollars and use subsidies and all these other schemes to take more of your money to prop up them and their business partners in these fraudulent schemes to provide quote-unquote green energy, when the real threat, the threat that can wipe us all out in one day, not decades, not centuries, one day, they turn a blind eye to. They turn a blind eye to. And this will bring me to why. Also, I've showed that picture of the nuclear, that sign of the nuclear explosion. Do you know what? Why Not many people know of the Baha'i faith and of Baha'u'llah. It's been suppressed. He made himself known to the world leaders of Europe, the Middle East, and to the religious figures, the popes, the clerics, the caliphs, what have you. So for 200 years, this information has been suppressed by those in power. Because they fear for their own control, authority, power over everyone. And I'll tell you right now, one of the most hated Bible verses by many of the people who are in power around the world, whether they are religious or political, I believe this is found in Isaiah. Forgive me if I'm misquoting that, but I'm pretty sure it is in Isaiah. And it says, "And they will beat their weapons of war into plowshares, and man will learn war no more." Jesus, peace be upon him, and all the prophets preached of a kingdom. He's called the Prince of Peace. You can call Baha'u'llah the Prince of Peace. You can call Muhammad the Prince of Peace, because he preached the path of peace. What he preached and what was perverted by religious leaders, and the same thing in Christianity, what Jesus preached and what was perverted by religious leaders in Christianity are two different things. So don't start with all your crap about the Prophet Muhammad and Islam being a religion of violence and stuff. The same perversion has happened in it as has happened within Christianity and other religions. It plainly states in the Quran how mankind was all one nation once, one people. We were one humanity. And that God has given all our ways so that we might know each other. If you read their text, you're going to see your own text. Now we can keep our different, we're all the same, yet we're all different. We're all descendants of Adam and Eve. We're all endowed by our Creator. But we have our own cultures and our own languages. And Baha'u'llah said that's all right to have those. But nations need to cooperate with each other. And we need to be more united as one humanity on the earth. Fight corruption and fight evil if it, like Hitler or something rears its head. But these wars for building empire and control and stuff and everything, and that's why that Bible verse, "They will beat their weapons of war into plowshares, and man will learn war no more," is hated by many of the people in power. Religious power and political power. Because when that happens, when people are not willing to kill each other anymore for those in power, then they have no control over you anymore. With that respect, there should always be people, elected, what have you, or monarchies they're good monarchies, where there's law and order and an organized civil society. But as far as them using religion and politics and nationality or ideologies or race to make you go to war and kill other people, if you take that away from them, they see that as a threat. So that is part of the reason I showed that nuclear explosion on that sign. That is a far greater threat to humanity than all their global warming crap and the COVID and anything else they want to throw in there. The suppression of the message of Baha'u'llah is a threat to humanity. They see the ideals and the ideas and the order of God as a threat to their own power. And so it has been suppressed. And just like now, hocus pocus, they are suppressing the real threat to humanity. Nuclear, what's really a threat to us. War, nuclear war, the destruction and poverty and that all that brings. The further slide of man's inhumanity to man, of where we're different than those people, they don't count type mentality creeps in. That is the real threat to humanity. And so I thought that would be maybe an eye-opener, showing that sign. And when I saw it today in the truck stop, I knew I had to get it. If you're worried about the future of the planet and the future of humanity, put your focus where it needs to be. Don't let them sway you with all this other stuff. It doesn't matter if they're on the left or the right, they're not going to mess with the big money of weapons. They'll tell you you're wrong. You're wrong if you go out in public. You're a threat to your neighbors. If you go out without a mask, you're a threat to the world. If you're not for electric cars and you have a gas burning car. But they won't present themselves as a threat to humanity because they refuse to do anything about the stockpiles of nuclear weapons around the world. Because they're all in the pockets of the weapons industry. You understand that? They want to penalize you for these things. They don't want anybody looking at them and saying, wait a minute. You're propping up the real threat to humanity by your enormous defense budgets that include nuclear weapons. They don't want anybody looking at them. So they're giving you other things to keep you busy and keep you looking at. These same people who, we got to save lives because of global warming. We got to save lives because of COVID. You heard a thing on the radio the other day. They're complaining about people on death row being executed. Heinous murderers. Treatment of prisoners in prison. They even got stimulus checks because of COVID and all this. But that baby in the womb, it has no rights. These people are backwards, and they will make you backwards. Unless you shake it all off, turn the goddamn TV off once in a while, and pray and ask your Creator for some guidance. Take a real look at the world. Ask your Lord to show you the world for real. When I started my quote-unquote religious journey, one of the things, it was after 9/11, maybe a year or so, maybe more, maybe less. And I had a lot of questions about the world because I saw all these people. I was Christian at the time, quote-unquote born again, who spoke of love of children and peace and were fighting against abortion. But then when 9/11 happened, these same people just went off the hook. Crusader mentality. It still goes on. And I saw even non-religious people, things they were saying and stuff. And I looked at world history, and Jesus preached a kingdom of peace and brotherhood of man. And I looked at all the wars since then and everything. And all the things in our society, abortion, the pornography, the way men will pimp women out and treat the child abuse, everything, all the ills of the world. And I said, my God, the world is mad. It's mad. Even just, the struggle and strife of keeping up with the Joneses and the materialism, it's madness. And I started reading more and more scripture. What happened? What happened? And looked at all the religious wars and stuff. And then I started reading more different texts and everything. And it was like, if there's one God, how come there's so many different people saying different things in different religions? So I kind of made this great big full circle. It took a while. God forgive me. Because I know I was praying for guidance, and I know He was showing me things, and I know I was missing it, partly because I kept drawing back into previous teachings and the ways of the world and stuff. But then I converted to Islam, and I saw that what was being presented on TV and what the Quran actually said were two different things, and that the Prophet never preached to kill anybody. And then I found out about the division in Islam. And I tried to turn a blind eye to it and say, it's in the past, it doesn't matter, etc., etc. But still, it gnawed at me, and I felt so disheartened. It's like, because God starts something good, and then there's like you want to call them schisms or what have you. But then this tragedy happens. And I learned about the persecution and the murder of the Prophet's own family, descendants. So I believe the Shia are right in respect that Ali was successor, and I believe in what happened in Ghadir Qum. But I don't believe Shia should curse the Sunnis or the first three caliphs. That does no good. Those things are in the past. And there's a lot within Shia Islam. I found myself there are many different sects and stuff, just like there is in Sunni. People argue back and forth on who's right about what. That only leads to more arguments and more fights and even wars. So don't even go down that road. So, but I kept on my journey. I kept asking questions. And truthfully, when I came across the Baha'i teachings and stuff, I always questioned whether, the return of Christ or the return of the Spirit, however you wish to put it, would be this global thing like the evangelicals teach and everything, and it's even taught in Islam. Or would it be something more localized? And he said, like a thief in the night. He didn't say there would be this great big banner and fanfare. Hey, I'm back. So when it came to learning of Baha'u'llah and the Baha'i faith, I was skeptical, even though I think, I always, well, what if he did come back? What if it did happen? And then when I start finding it out, then I kind of shied away. I was like, wait a minute, can this be true? And the more I looked into it, the more I found it to be true. The prophecies of both Islam and in Christianity, the things that match, his teachings that make sense and match the explanation of previous scriptures, it's all there. So I urge you, if you want to continue your religious journey, if you want to start to see the path, then look into the Baha'i faith and the teachings of Baha'u'llah. And there are passages in the Bible about the order of God, about the glory of God, and the cause of God. And so I kind of go, I started questioning, well, if they all taught of brotherhood and unity, and etc., and love of your neighbor and all this, why the wars, and why have people been so stoked by religious leaders and politicians to go and do all these types of things? And I learned in the Quran about, because I saw with my own eyes when I was a Christian, the corruption by religious leaders, whether, it's the evangelical stealing from everybody and all their scams, or to the Crusades and stuff. And, I started seeing that and everything, and it's explained in the Quran that, the message comes down clear and pure. But the men use religion for their own power and to enrich themselves, and etc. So that's an evident fact of life, no matter where you are in the world. You should see that within your own religion. So I'm going to cut this off here. I'm going over 30 minutes here. So so it kind of went full circle to why is all this stuff happened and everything, and then coming to find Baha'u'llah and seeing the reiteration of, the call for unity and what the goal and the cause of God is. And you'll find that, I believe it's in Isaiah, when there's unity, men will beat their weapons of war into plowshares, and man will learn war no more. And so people will not have the power over you to enforce their will, use you to enforce their will on other people around the world. All right, wish you all the best out there. God bless. If you celebrate Christmas, have a good Christmas. Be safe on the highways, going to visit family and stuff. And we'll catch you on the next one. Adios.